Welcome to the nuKnee Strength module. For this module, you will need a yoga mat, a towel or a pillow, and a chair. Now that we've created flexibility and balance surrounding the knee, our goal is to create strength and support in all of the tissues that support our knee and hip complex. For the first exercise in our strength module, we're going to start by warming up our hips with our three-dimensional hip excursions. Place your right foot in front of your left and push your hips back and then push them forward. Notice that David has his hands on his hips for support, while Trisha's arms are down at her side. Be careful not to arch through your back or create any tension in your lower back. Just keep your knees straight and push your hips forward and back in a nice controlled manner, noticing to feel a stretch on the front of your leg and in the back of your leg. Now we're going to go side to side. So push your hips out to the left and to the right, noticing a good stretch on the outside of your hip, being careful not to increase any stress on your lower back. Trisha's waving her arms side to side as she completes this exercise, while David keeps his hands on his hips for increased balance and support. Continue at a nice controlled pace. Now place your hands on your hips and complete a hula hoop circle with your hips. Pushing your hips out to the side in each way is starting to warm up our hips for the rest of our strength module. Roll your hips to the left and to the front and then to the right and then back, warming up every part of our hip, knee, and ankle complex. Great job. Now let's switch legs. Bring your left foot forward. Start by pushing your hips back and then push your hips forward. As you go back, you may feel a stretch on the back of your legs, and when you come forward, you may feel a stretch on the right side of your hip. Continue back and forth at a nice, comfortable pace, swaying your arms front and back for increased flexibility. Now let's go side to side. Push your hips from the left to the right, working to feel a stretch on the outside of your hips, and you may even feel a little bit of a stretch on the inside of your groin. Trisha swaying her arms side to side for a deeper stretch, while David keeps his hands on his hips for increased balance. Continue moving side to side, warming up those hips. And now let's go with our hula hoop circles. Place your hands on your hips and push your hips forward, back, right, and left in a nice circular pattern. Relaxing our feet, relaxing our knees so that our hip is doing all the work. Just moving all the way around a circle, preparing our hips for the rest of the strength module. Go ahead and grab a chair and place it on the edge of your mat facing you. Face towards the chair with feet about shoulder width apart, and then place your right leg up on the chair. Keep your left heel down on the ground and drive your knee forward for our chair drives. Drive your right knee forward, and David keeps his hands on his hips for balance, while Trisha's bringing her arms up and overhead to increase the flexibility of the front of her left hip. Keep that left heel on the ground so you can emphasize the stretch on the front of your left hip, and continue to drive that knee forward and back, warming up our entire lower leg. Let's go ahead and place our left leg up on the chair and complete that same movement. Keep your right leg straight, your right heel on the ground, and continue to move forward and back, feeling a stretch on the front of your right hip and maybe a little bit of a stretch on the top of your knee. For the advanced version, take your arms up overhead during the exercise to challenge your flexibility. And step off of the chair. Place your chair off to the side and come to a standing position in the center of your mat. David's going to place his hands on his hips for increased balance. We're going to take a step forward with our right leg, keeping our left heel on the ground, and then return. And then take a step forward with our left leg and return. These mobility lunges are meant to challenge your balance and the strength of your lower leg while continuing to build control in your entire body. Step forward and return. Step forward and return. Great job. 2 more on each leg. Notice that Trisha's bringing her arms up overhead to increase the strength demand, while David keeps his hands on his hips to maintain control and balance. Keep that back heel on the ground and only lunge as far as your body will allow you to. Now we're going to go side to side. So lunge out to the right with your right leg, bend that knee and return, and then lunge out to the left and return. Notice as we lunge to the right, our left leg stays straight, and as we lunge out to the left, our right leg stays straight. You may feel a stretch on the inside of your thigh or your groin while you do this exercise, and you may feel that outside hip loading, which is what we're looking for. Continue at a nice controlled pace, trying to step out a little further each time, working on loading the leg that you're stepping onto and stretching the leg that you're stepping off of. Continue here and return. Great job. Now we're going to do our rotational lunges. So step out to the right at a 45-degree angle and return to the center, and step out to the left at a 45-degree angle and return. Each time try and step a little farther, gaining a little bit more range and demanding a little bit more strength from your body. Continue at a nice controlled pace with your right leg and then with your left leg. And if you want to challenge your strength more, continue with Trisha's pattern of reaching her arms forward and overhead during the exercise. One last one, stepping out to the right, loading that right hip, and stepping out to the left and loading that left hip. Go ahead and grab your chair and place it directly behind the center of your mat. Stand in front of your chair with your back heels touching your chair, then move slightly forward to give yourself a little bit of space. We're going to complete a squat matrix where we bend our knees, push our hips back to touch the chair, and then stand up. For David's modified version, he's using his hand to help himself lower down to the chair and to push himself back up, while Trisha's advanced version brings her arms in front of her body to help load her hips more. One last squat, touching our hip to the chair, and then upright. Let's stagger our feet just a little bit by bringing your right foot 6 inches forward and completing that same squat movement. Remember that you don't want the surface to be so low that you're placing any extra stress or pain on your knees, but we're trying to load our hips to prepare it for getting in and out of chairs, getting in and out of cars, and just overall strengthening our hips. Push that hip back as you bend that knee, and then stand nice and tall. Great, let's switch legs to the other side and complete that same movement. Bending at our knees and our waist, pushing our hips back, and then coming to a nice upright standing position. Continue at a nice comfortable pace, loading your hips and strengthening your right hip a little bit more than your left during this movement. Great work here. Now go ahead and put your chair away. Come to a standing position in the center of your mat, and now we're going to complete another lunge sequence. We're going to take a step forward with our right leg and bend our knee and return, and then take a step forward with our left leg, bend our knee, and return. Notice that David has his hands on his hips, but he's leaning forward slightly with his chest to increase the strength demand of his hips. Trisha's reaching both hands forward as if she's placing an object in the front of her knee and then returning. This reach with our arms adds increased demand and control from our hips and is starting to work on strengthening both of our hips in an upright, functional manner. Great work here. One last one to each side, stepping forward, leaning or reaching forward, and then stepping with our other leg and returning. Now we're going to complete our side lunges. So lunge out to the right with your right leg and lean or reach forward and return to center, and lunge out to the left with your left leg and return. Notice that as we go to the right, our left leg is straight, and as we go to the left, our right leg is straight. David keeps his hands on his hips and leans his chest forward to place increased stress on the back of his hips during this exercise, while Trisha's completing the same movement but reaching her arms in front of her legs to continue to place extra demand on her hips. One last one to each side, stepping and reaching forward. Great work here, and return to center. Now we're going to complete our rotational lunges. So step out at a 45-degree angle to the right, lean or reach in front of your knee, and return. And now complete the same movement to the left side, and return. By lunging in a three-dimensional pattern, we're preparing our hips for anything that it's going to experience in our daily life, whether it be stepping forward, stepping to the side to avoid an object, or stepping rotationally to move around something. We're strengthening our knee and our hip in these functional manners to help load and control. Great work here. Step out to the right and lean or reach, and step out to the left and lean or reach. For this next exercise, we're going to start in the middle of our mat with our feet shoulder width apart and our hands on our hips. We're going to come up on our toes into a calf raise, hold for a second at the top, and then lower back down to the ground. Continue at a nice controlled pace, lifting up, holding for a second, and then returning your heels back to the floor. Great work here. Now let's place our right foot 6 inches in front of our left and complete that same movement, coming up on our toes and then lowering back down to the floor. We spent a good amount of time strengthening our upper leg and hips, and now we want to strengthen our calf muscle to support our knee. Continue up on your toe, hold for a second, and then lower back down to the floor. And let's go ahead and switch sides to the other leg. Complete a calf raise and lower back down to the floor, holding for 1 second at the top. Great work here. Go up and back down. Lift your heels and then lower back down to the floor. For this next exercise, go ahead and place all of your weight on your right leg into a single leg stance and complete a mini squat, reaching your leg forward and back. So squat and reach forward with your left leg and return, and then reach back with your left leg and return. Notice that with each squat, David is placing his left foot on the ground so he can maintain his balance. Squat, reaching forward, back to middle. Squat, reaching back, back to middle. Go as deep as you can without any pain in your knee or your hip, working to load that hip in a single leg manner. Let's switch sides and go to our left. We're going to shift our weight onto our left leg, squat and reach our right leg forward, and then squat and reach our right leg back. Trisha has her hands out away from her body so that she can increase the demand of the strength of her left hip. Load as deep as you can in a comfortable manner, each time resting at the top for increased balance and support. Squat, reach back. Squat and reach forward. Squat and reach back. Great job. Come back to neutral, and now let's go ahead and stand on our right leg again. Now we're going to do that same squat, but we're going to reach from side to side. So we're going to squat and reach out to the left, tapping our toe on the ground if needed, and then squat and reach out to the right, tapping our toe if needed. Again, notice that David's hands maintain on his hips, and he's reaching from side to side, placing his foot on the ground if needed for support. Trisha's advanced version is causing more demand on her hip and increased strength and control throughout her right leg. Good. Let's go ahead and switch to that left side. So stand on your left leg, complete a single leg squat and return to middle, and then a single leg squat and return back to the center. As you reach your right leg out to the side and across your body to the side, you'll notice that you may feel an increased demand on your hip in different areas. Great work here. Let's keep going side to side in a nice controlled manner. One last one. And there. Great work, guys. You've now completed the strength module.